Hello there everyone, and welcome to this Biology Mind A-Level tutorial on disaccharides. So just to recap, in our last lesson we learned that monosaccharides are simple sugars and glucose is an example. There are two isomers of glucose, alpha glucose and beta glucose. Now we have two key learning objectives. Number one, disaccharides and their formation, and number two, common disaccharide formation mechanisms. So without further ado, let's get going. So disaccharides. Now let's have a think about what disaccharide actually means. It's when two monosaccharides form together in a condensation reaction. Now we can get two types of disaccharides, either a homogenous disaccharide or a heterogenous disaccharide. Now remember, homo in homogeneous means the same, and hetero means different. So in a homogeneous disaccharide, we're getting two of the same monosaccharides joining together to form the disaccharide. And in a heterogeneous disaccharide, we're getting two different monosaccharides joining together to form the final disaccharide. Pretty simple, right? So let's move on to the next slide and have a think about how we make our disaccharides. Now, as I said on the previous slide, disaccharides are produced via condensation reactions. Now, this is something we covered in a previous tutorial, so if you haven't watched that yet, then perhaps go back to watch that. So our two monosaccharides here, glucose and glucose, monomer 1, monomer 2, are joined together in a condensation reaction. This is a glycosidic bond here between our two monosaccharides. Now, can you fill these two boxes in? Give the video a pause if you think you can. But we'll move on to the next slide if you think you can't. Okay, so glucose plus glucose forms maltose, plus remember, in a condensation reaction we are always forming water, so please don't forget that. This is a condensation reaction, so we always form water. And the fact that we form maltose is because we've got the glucose monosaccharide plus a glucose monosaccharide making a disaccharide, and that's always going to be maltose. Now again, this is showing the same thing, so glucose-glucose goes to form maltose plus water. So remember, never forget that, it's a condensation reaction. And something to think about here is, why do we form water? It's because we're stealing the hydroxyl group from this monomer and the hydrogen group from this one, and that is H2O. And that leaves this lovely bond here to form maltose. So for your exams, you need to know how to draw out the synthesis reactions of some common disaccharides. So it's really important that you memorise those molecular structures of our common monosaccharides, such as glucose here, which remember in our previous tutorial we know has the formula C6H12O6. And you can use your own knowledge of knowing that a condensation reaction forms water to just simply take away the hydroxyl group of this monomer and the hydrogen of this monomer. Now let's have a think about which monosaccharides make up the resulting disaccharides. Now, you've probably just had a sneak peek there, but have a think about it. So we've just covered maltose and what monosaccharides make maltose. That was glucose plus glucose, right? So now have a think about what makes sucrose and what makes lactose. You can pause the video here if you want to have a go yourself first. Okay, so we'll move on now and go through the answers. So, alpha glucose plus alpha glucose forms maltose. Remember, alpha glucose is just an isomer of glucose, so it's just a different positioning of the hydroxyl group in glucose in a different position. Alpha glucose plus fructose forms sucrose, and beta glucose plus galactose forms lactose. So these are all condensation reactions that you need to remember and commit to memory because they often come up in exams. That's 3 there for you to jot down. Now these are just some examples of simple and complex sugars. So we know that our simple sugars are our monosaccharides and our disaccharides. Our monosaccharides are glucose, fructose and galactose, and our disaccharides are maltose, lactose and sucrose, which we met on the last slide. Now we haven't come to look at these in huge detail yet, but these are our complex sugars, so our polysaccharides, so lots of monosaccharides joined together, and they are our starches, fibres and glycogen. So well done for today. Remember that condensation reactions are really important in bonding two monosaccharides together to form a disaccharide. And remember, we always get that formation of our water molecule. Well done, and I will see you for our next tutorial.